I want our parents to know that we don't think about just test scores. That's, a false assumption. We look at our students as a whole.
You were interim before at one point when Dr. Ramsey landed the job. Did you apply then? And if so or not, why? And then why now?
So when I was interim before, it was during the period when Dr. Scribner retired and Dr. Ramsey was already going to be named and loan finalist. So during that time period of the search, I did not apply. And that was really a couple of reasons. One, I believe the city and the board were ready to go out for a search and look external. And I was also, my daughter was going to be a senior that year. And I wanted to be a senior mom and then also just see what it was going to be like visiting colleges, taking her, the following year to college and doing those type of things. And this is a very big job with a big commitment. And your family is really second or third down the list. And I just decided this was my time to be a mom. I have one child, one daughter, and I really wanted to be able to experience that, not just for her, but also for me, to be able to say we went through that time together. So I just made a decision and very happy to support Dr. Ramsey coming in and just knowing that, having someone who had been here would help with that transition as well.
Tell me about the conversation with family about deciding on doing this job. What was that like?
Exciting because I did, speak with my husband first and say, if they asked me to be interim, what are your thoughts? And he just looked at me and said, well, of course, you wouldn't say no, you never have, and you love this district, you love this city. And then I said, well, what do you think about me applying, permanently? And he said, well, I would be surprised and actually disappointed if you didn't, because this is your passion and you should do it. It's your time, it's our time as well. So then I just called my daughter just to give her, a heads up. Social media, news, and she graduated from Fort Worth ISD as well, so she still has friends here. And she was super excited. And she was, do it, Mom, do it. You have to try. You always tell me to try and do things, and so this is your time to try as well. And I said, okay.
No. School consolidation list. It's a working document, obviously.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that list? There are different options for middle schools, elementary schools, closing, repurposing. How are you feeling here about that working document?
Well, I think I'm glad you're saying the heart versus the head. So there's two feelings. There's the heart because being in this district, the years of 26 years, 27, going in 27 years of education. When you speak about a school, for me, I'm speaking about the neighborhood and the community when we put a school name on the list. So for my heart, I've visited and been a part of every school in this district, some point within my career, and can walk into a school and know a staff member there. So that's very emotional for me to think about a school's not going to be there. And so that's hard, but I also have to look at our district as a system and look at our decrease in enrollment and what resources we're having difficulty staffing our schools, with certified teachers because we're spread out, with over 130 campuses. Also with certified counselors, looking for librarians, certified nurses as well. So when we look at that, I have to look at it systemically as well as what's our best decisions. So, but the heart and the head decisions are very difficult for me. And, probably the downfall of being here for so long is when you do have to look at some of those families or you have your own memories of walking into some of those schools and what a great building and facility, but more importantly, the neighborhood is. So that's why for me, it's the input, the community input, and the list is about our process. It's not about a decision. It's not about even a recommendation at this point. It's just showing our community that there's a process in place. We're trying to be transparent. The worst thing is for me to go with recommendations and expect the board to vote within a week's notice without community being able to have their say, ask their questions, be able to process as well. And then we don't have all the answers. When we go to community meetings, they will ask questions, and as a staff, we're like, okay, we need to go back and look at it through that lens. Go pull the data through that lens. So these community meetings are very important for us to be able to make those final recommendations.
You're stepping into a position where we saw our mayor, Mayor Matty Parker, become very vocal about our school system, the school district goals. What would that be like for you? Is this a good relationship? Is something you're looking forward to? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I appreciate Mayor Parker because she put a sense of urgency around our city, not just for the district, but around our city to embrace us, support us as a district, and partner. Very, very supportive relationship, and I look forward to her collaboration. Even as I was named on Tuesday night, she sent me a message, congratulating me. So look forward to what comes next, but we'll leverage her and her role to lean in and have our business and our community lean in with us as we go forward with our literacy plan that we adopted the literacy resolution, and then our district strategic plan, which really focuses on bringing our community back into our schools and partnering with us with not just initiatives, but also with education and what do our students need to do to be able to accelerate their learning, and how can everyone help us with that?
Teacher pay and lack of state funding, who would want to do your job right now? What are your goals and how do you tackle those issues?
So, you have your state funding, which we definitely, our legislative priorities have our teacher compensation as one of our priorities as well. But it's also, how do you create a culture where your teachers want to stay in the profession? So for me, that's my work on a daily basis. We're going to battle Austin, we're going to ask for compensation, but then how do I put working conditions in place so professionals don't want to leave the profession of education? That's the struggle, not just compensation. Good teachers and any good employee, whatever the profession is, they want to stay and work for an organization that respects them, appreciates them, and puts them in working environments that they feel safe and respected. And that's a major priority for me in our district strategic plan is retention, just not recruitment. But of course, we also want to look at compensation and be competitive around the Metroplex.
What do you want, Dr. Molinar, for people at home to know about you when it comes to education and your passion for it? Where did it come from?
Well, I grew up with two of my aunts and then one aunt by marriage that were all three teachers. And actually, the one aunt was one of my teachers going through elementary school. So I got to have her as a teacher. But I grew up grading papers, spelling tests with my aunt's house, and spend the night with your cousins, and very close family. And then one of my cousins, who is like my sister, grew up to be a teacher, double majored in biology, geology. She's retired now. I have one that's a counselor. But education it wasn't college for us. It was just you respected education. You respected the school system. You got up every day and you went to school. If you had a bellyache, you're going to be fine. Get on the bus. You're going to school. That's how I was raised, and that was what it meant for us as a school system in our family. And then I'm a teacher. It's very difficult for me to sit in one place and present or talk. When I go to a principal meeting and open up and present, I'm walking around. The teacher is in me, and that is about how do we engage people in whatever topic and whatever age level who we're speaking with.
What will your first 90 days look like, and what would you consider your top 3 priorities?
So first 90 days is implementing our district strategic plan that was just passed, 9-0 vote. It took us 2 tries, but we did it. We listened to community, revised it. Then also, of course, implementing that, setting the goals on the baselines for coming back in the fall 2025 for those. And then also our literacy resolution. I'm really deep into designing the literacy foundation and the outline that we will be rolling out for 25-26. A lot of my time yesterday was spent around that and our next steps. Those are my two huge ones, and of course our budget. We're budget planning right now for 25-26, and we know we have our legislative session, and we do not know what we're going to get out of that session, so we're budgeting on what we know for revenue currently. And that means making some hard decisions, reallocating those resources towards literacy and of course towards math for our students. And what does that mean? And whatever we get from our session will be additional funds, then we can decide how we can accelerate our student growth even more.
What would a conversation between you and Governor Abbott be when it comes to school vouchers?
Wow, that's a great question. I respect school choice. We have many charter schools and private schools here that do wonderful things. Our scores, when you look at them with charters, some of it is above, which is not great. Our scores are not where they need to be. But vouchers mean for not all of our families, that's not always school choice, because that's only a limited amount of funding. But where's the accountability for the vouchers? Where is there going to be a state test for accountability to make sure the students that are going to these other institutions are being treated fairly, that they're receiving an education that shows student growth, that their individual needs are being met, whether that's dyslexia, whether it's special ed or emergent bilingual. If you're going to do vouchers, have an equal playing field for accountability. And the accountability is not about the funding that follows it. The accountability is about all of these organizations are making sure our students are growing academically, but then also receiving the needs that they need to receive.
What's your message to the parents, the teachers, and the students about your personal goals and leadership for this district?
Definitely accelerated growth for our students, where they're at, where they're going, but then more importantly, to engage with our students of what they need for their personal education. We have a lot of students that they come to school for our after-school activities, our sports, our fine arts, and that's growing our students into adulthood as well. So I want our parents to know that we don't think about just test scores. That's a false assumption. We look at our students as a whole. If they're happy when they walk in, if they're fed. We have over 24 food pantries right now that we're running in our schools, as well as care closets for clothing and uniforms. We care about our students when they walk in the door. It's just for us, just not test scores as well. And that we care about our parents. I want you in our schools. I want you to engage with the teachers, and whatever capacity that is. I'm not going to tell you how to parent. What you're dealing with at home, I have no clue, but let's engage two-way with your students in our schools and open our doors and say, come in. And more importantly, I love this city, and we are part of this city. So the more we work together and our students grow, we're going to grow as a city as well.
Yeah, being superintendent comes with a lot of responsibility, including safety. Mm-hmm. When it comes to public safety in our schools, making sure that there is a plan for active shooting, mm-hmm. Safe campuses. Give me your thoughts on making sure that the teachers and students are safe on a day-to-day basis.
That's really what worries us a lot, that we don't speak about. So I appreciate you asking that question. We have just a fantastic safety and security team that are behind the scenes. Our custodians are part of our safety and security team, where they walk around the halls. They stop people and say, can I see your badge? They're watching every single door around our campuses and make sure it's closed and not propped open. When we have a delivery, our nutrition service workers are there to say, okay, thank you, now shut the door and lock it. Every minute there's staff members that are making sure our schools are very safe. And I know it can be frustrating when someone has to be buzzed into a campus through a speaker system before they can even get inside the set of those doors. But those are the safety requirements we have. We have also, we've invested in our new metal detectors that are very easy, that they're not the big ones that it takes two people to roll out. They're small so they can go in and out. It makes it a lot quicker for our students to go through them. We set up unannounced ones as well, just to make sure that weapons are not coming into our school. We're very careful when we have any type of event. We want people to come in our schools and enjoy our schools when we have special events, but there are parameters around that. You have to check in. You may need to go through metal detectors in some of those events. But we're constantly seeing how we can increase our safety. And we always want to have great customer service, but we just ask for patience when we have to put those things in place as well.
Do you feel a personal responsibility to make sure that Fort Worth ISD is just as good as any other school district?
Oh, yes. It's not a personal, it's what I live and breathe every day. I go to bed thinking about this district. I wake up in the middle of the night, and that's the first thing I do in the morning. I lean over and I grab my phone, to check my emails. I don't put my phone on silent because we are an urban district and things do happen at night. We have a wonderful relationship with the Fort Worth PD department. When something happens at night that may have involved one of our students, it could have been where there was something domestic and one of our students witnessed that. We have that alert where we're notified, handle with care. So then this morning I can have a counselor making sure if that student comes to school that they're taken care of. It never stops for me, and it doesn't stop for many of our employees here. That's our passion. And it's just not making it better academically, it's making it safer and then making it feel warm for our students. Whatever you're experiencing at home, school is your safe place, and that we care about you.
Speaking of school being a safe place, you're an educator and a mother. When it comes to students being bullied, and unfortunately sometimes we hear about it too late, your take on that?
It upsets me that we don't have more respect for each other, and that's just not at the student level, that's at the adult level as well. Social media is definitely playing a huge impact for our students with that. And that's why we're looking at cell phone policies, because a lot of that takes place during school. And we want our students to come to school not constantly worried about what's being posted or snapped on the cell phone, but engaged in learning. That's part of being safe as well, that I can learn without worrying about what's being said about me. And so we are looking at that. We're collecting data this year around inappropriate cell phone use. We have added identifier in our discipline system when students are using social media inappropriately during our school time or their cell phone, that we're coding it. Because we need to really look to see if cell phones in our schools is impacting, of course, the social and emotional well-being of our students, but then also the instructional delivery for our teachers as well. My hope is, it's hard for me to understand how we cannot just try to get to know each other in the bully, because as you become an adult, there's people that we're friends with we never would have spoken to if we're in school, but it's learning that developmental, these are people that are going to impact your life one day. Maybe not that person, but someone that you didn't know, you weren't friends with, came from a different background, different culture, but can bring so much to your life if you get to know and learn from them. And it's just how do we get our students to realize that? It's just not a Fort Worth thing, it's a nationwide thing. We want to connect on social media, but we also want to disconnect and not be very kind to each other. And like I said, that's just not our students, it's adults as well.
What role, Dr. Molinar, do you want artificial intelligence to play in this district? Do you use it yourself? Are you a fan of it?
So I'm just dabbling in it. I I don't, I think you have to understand it. So we actually had a technology conference this year, and it was around AI that we sponsored as a district. So my husband and I both went, honestly, and because he's in oil and gas field and engineering, and he's like, I want to go and listen as well because it's not a big thing in his field. And it was very interesting because how AI, like anything, if you use it responsibly, like how can it impact? And this false narrative that will take over jobs. And it's also competition and competitive. But then there was one part of the technology conference I thought was very powerful. If you do not teach it how to use AI responsibly, how are you putting your own students behind the competitiveness when you're applying for college and applications? Like if you're a district that says like we're never going to teach you how to use AI, but you have a district in your state that is using AI, and they're teaching them how to write an essay to get into college appropriately using AI. Like those are things I didn't think of. I was like, you know what? Like what are we doing by saying we're not going to teach you how to use AI, or what's the benefits of it? And then honestly, our own state utilizes AI to score our open-ended responsive, our constructive responses for our accountability system. So for us, acting like AI is not here does not make sense for us. So we need to learn how to teach it, how to embed it. But that first, of course, is teaching our teachers as well. And administrators, like what is AI and how do we use it responsibly?
After you're superintendent, what do you want people to say about your leadership in this district?
That she cares not only about the students, but about the staff. That I care about retaining our staff, that hold people accountable. To me, if we're coming to work, we're all here for our students. That's our outcome. And then providing customer service and how we respect each other. And that I respect people and I demanded that in return of how people are treated within internally and how we treat externally our customers.
You know, I do have to ask you this. Educators across the country are watching Keller ISD. Mm-hmm. I'd like to know your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Keller, for being in the news and not us. I'll say that. That was a nice change, But those are difficult because when I look at, and all I see is board meetings and news clips, right? So I'm not there. I don't know what Keller's staff and board have done behind the scenes and what they're going through, what their process looks like. And I think, I'm learning from Keller that the process has to be transparent when we're talking about school closures and consolidations. So we're learning also from them with this process, how to be even more transparent of the process of it. But I always think splitting a district is, to me, splitting your heart in two. That's how I would feel. Like I cannot imagine who would I decide to split away. So they're going through some emotional work that I do not envy them, and I would never want to have to experience here.